Okay. Right, we'll start the meeting. Good
morning to you all and welcome to the Cabinet meeting on the 23rd of November 2021. I'm hoping that you're all keeping safe and well. There's a fairly busy Cabinet agenda today, so we'll make a start straight away.
Can I just start by thanking Julian for standing in for me last month? Much appreciated, Julian. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll start the agenda item. Are there any apologies? No apologies. Okay, second declaration of interest.
Members be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it is a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal or prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available online.
Diolch, Gary. Is anybody wants to declare an interest now? No. Okay. Thank you for that. Agenda item 3. Any urgent matters? No urgent matters. Thank you. We'll go to the minutes. Agenda item 4. First of all, for corrections, please. Page 7. Page 8. 9. 10. 11. And 12. For matters arising, page 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. Will somebody propose the correct, please?
Yeah, happy to move, Chair.
And everybody's seconder? Tony? Okay. Nobody's against that, are they? Good. Thank you. Right, we're going to try and stick to the agenda, but I note that some officers might not be here at the appropriate time. Is Phil Gilroy with us now?
No, Sharon wrote a note to say you are taking Llannerch Bridge before MEIFOD.
Yes, if Phil wasn't here, so Phil's still not joined us. Okay, I'll go to agenda item 6.
Councillor Morgan referred to service need. And obviously we need to look at the densely populated areas as well as villages. And
I can't hear whoever that is speaking. I can't hear.
Can you all go on mute, please? Because we might hear conversations we don't want to hear. So, okay, I'll move on to agenda.
TFW and a CJC would outweigh anybody else. So
it's Brian.
Please, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
Good. Did you say Phil is joining? Well, we'll do 6 and we come back.
I told Phil, sorry, Sharon, I got the wrong end of the stick. I told Phil that he would be, I'd call him after the Llannerch Bridge item. That's because fine. He was of the opinion, he thought that was being taken first. So I was going to let him know when that item was finishing and he'll be here for MEIFOD.
Good. Okay, that's fine, Bobby. We'll go to agenda item 6. Llannerch Bridge. Brian, please. Brian Jones.
Yeah, thank you, leaders. So item number 6, Llannerch Bridge. This report's about obviously it's about the Llannerch Bridge located between Trefnitt and Tremarchan, which was lost in the January 2021 storm Christoph. It has caused massive disruption to businesses and communities in the area. I have to say, before I go any further, I support the local members Medical Lloyd Davis and Christine Martin in all their efforts to make sure that at some point a replacement bridge can be put in place. It's not a straightforward matter, although at first view and to the uninitiated, it might appear a straightforward matter to replace this bridge. But when you get into the detail, and obviously I'm not a bridge expert, but it has been explained to me, issues around foundations, issues around the river in the locality, and numerous other issues, they all come together and lead the replace bridge in some form or another. Yeah.
Right. It might be better for you to put the screen off. You were cutting
Right.
it a little bit.
How much didn't you hear then?
Most of it, Brian. The
You
last
didn't hear
sentence.
most? Yeah. Okay, then we'll try again. Then hopefully it's coming through loud and clear. So obviously the report is about the Llannerch Bridge, which was between Trefnet and Tremechan, that was lost in January of this year, further to Storm Christoph. I wanted to make the point, first of all, that I support the local members, Medical Lloyd Davis and Christine Marsden, in their pursuit to have this bridge replaced at the earliest possible opportunity. There is, when you get into the detail, I'm not a bridge expert, but when you do get instructed in the technical aspects of replacing what appears to the uninitiated a simple bridge replacement, it is an in-depth project work, bit of project work, and such aspects as the foundations, elements like the land either side of the bridge, elements like the river and what's happened to the river over a number of years, and the contribution that made to the bridge being washed away, all come into the mix to leave you with a pretty sophisticated technical solution that you've got to come up with. Hence, that's reflected in the indications in the report about the potential cost, etc. So this morning, we brought this report. We're looking for cabinet support for the principle of replacing the bridge, and what I've identified with officers, we need to come up with a robust business case that we can take to Welsh Government with a view that they will support us in the funding to replace the bridge. So we must have a robust business case to apply for that funding, and I believe we're going about it in the right way, part of which is this report to Cabinet this morning, and if we get the business case, we've got a better chance of securing the funding, and ultimately securing the funding will be the route where we can replace the bridge. So with those words, Leader, I don't know if the officers are here with us yet, because they thought we were down the pecking order on this one. So I don't know if Tony Ward, Jim Hall or Tim Towers are with us at the moment. I can see Mr. Ward now, so he's with us. So if Tony wants to add in to anything, if he caught what I was running through there, he may want to add on to it. Tony.
Thanks, Brian. Borodar Pawb. I hope you're all well. Yes, you've obviously read the report, and it's fairly brief and to the point. Brian has alluded to the fact that replacing this bridge is a complex matter, and the conditions at this location make it quite a difficult proposition. So what we've been doing over the last few months is some initial feasibility work to see how we might go about replacing the bridge here, and to try and establish potential likely costs. Now, at the moment, these are very much initial estimates, but we think it may cost somewhere in the region of £6 to £7 million to replace the bridge, which is obviously quite a substantial amount of money. The other thing that we've been doing is we ran a public engagement exercise for a couple of reasons, really. One was to try and establish who used the bridge when it was there and why, and also, but really also to gain evidence of local community support for replacing this bridge, which we felt was really important to support any business case that we develop. We had a really big response from the local community when we did the public eyes, around about 750 responses, and the vast majority of those people responding stated very clearly that this bridge was an important feature for them, and this was an important route, and they would like us to try and pursue replacement of the bridge. So we have that evidence now of the community support. We now wish to go about the business of developing a business case for this. What we would like to do is get support from Cabinet, in principle support, for the potential replacement of the bridge. Obviously, that would be subject to us securing the funding to do so. And what we would like to do is get Cabinet's blessing to make an approach to Welsh Government at the appropriate time to request funding for this project, rather than asking the council to commit potentially £6 to £7 million to fund the scheme.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, that's what we're asking for today. And we've also got Tim Towers here at the meeting, and myself and Tim and Brian will happily answer any questions that members have got.
Okay, thank you both for that. That seems very clear to me. I'll just open the conversation now for Cabinet members first of all, before coming to the local members.
If I could just come back in quickly, Leader.
Yes,
One relevant point is relevant for me. When the bridge first went, one of my first reactions was I asked Tim Towers, he wrote a letter to Welsh Government to inform them and ask them for money. But the point I want to make was my first thought was we'll go up to Mochtra, there's a TA facility up there, let's get some temporary bridging and sling a bridge across the river. And that sounded fantastic, that. We'll have a Kelly's Hero style bridge until the day comes when we can replace the bridge with a permanent structure. But I was put right by officers, the Jim Halls of this world, because you couldn't do that in this day and age with the various regulations. You couldn't sling an army-style bridge across and have something that would be safe and would meet the public liability responsibility. So I just wanted to chuck that in just for the benefit of the wider audience, that that proved not an option, Leader.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Brian. Okay, Cabinet members, any comments on this? Mark Young?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just a couple of ones. So obviously it's good we're committing to this. So just a couple of questions. Have we had any feedback on whether we're going to be successful? So we've committed to renewing the bridge, but obviously it's down to funding. But if we're not going to be successful, you need a plan B. So how's that chat gone initially with government? Are you confident or aren't you sure yet? And some local farmers and commercial users have talked about the design of the old bridge. And it wasn't great, I'm told, and I know it's been used for a long time, but there's an opportunity to, I understand it's got to look similar, but are we taking the opportunity to make it more user-friendly for the users of that bridge in that area? Just those two.
I can answer them, Leader. So in reverse order, any new bridge, it will be built to 21st century standard. The original bridge was built in the 1800s for horse and carts, and that's not uncommon with a lot of bridges in Denbighshire. So it was operating in a different world to up until the date when it disappeared. As far as the farmers and the second question there, we will take account of that. It'll look cosmetically sort of the same. It'll look cosmetically sort of the same. And as for the levels of confidence on the funding, well, that's one, as I've already stated, we need a robust business case to put to Welsh Government that makes it difficult for them to say no. If they do say no, then the options sort of narrow down a little bit. Obviously, that we'd have to look within Denbighshire in the first instance, and there's possibly maybe some other streams of funding where we could get our hands on to replace the bridge. But there's got to be a certain level of confidence that Welsh Government, if the business case is robust enough, that they will support us. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay with that, Mark? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Julian?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Similar point, really, I suppose, to Mark. It was just to try and reinforce that I fully support us taking the steps that we're planning on taking. We do need a really robust case to submit to Welsh Government, because I suppose my usual caveat on this one would be that whilst this project is on the very long list that Steve has accumulated from services in terms of the horizon scanning exercise for potential capital schemes, we haven't obviously made any allocation as yet within our limited capital resource to actually take anything on forward. So we really do need to pressure Welsh Government as far as is humanly possible to ensure that the business case is absolutely watertight. I'm sure officers will do that, and I know we've had that discussion already, Tony. It's just to reinforce that there's nothing obviously in our capital plan at the moment to pick up for this. I suppose is the case that I'm actually making. So Welsh Government are our real main port of call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Leader, if I can just, if you let me come back on that, if I can.
Yes,
yeah, Julian, absolutely, that is noted and that is clear. The council haven't made any provision for the funding of this project currently. And I agree with you, we need to make sure that the business case is really sound and robust when we go to Welsh Government with this request. We'd like to just do a little bit more further work before we actually make that approach to Welsh Government to enable the action. We're very clear about what could be done here and how much it may cost. So we're going to do a little bit of further work in terms of ground investigations, flow modelling, in order to inform that business case. So yeah, that's the plan. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Tony. Hill, please. Hill Hildy.
Diolch, Leader. Thank you. I think just want to be clear. What Mark and Julian have said, I agree with, but this is clear supporting an application to get the ball rolling with Welsh Government to make sure, because the stats and the usage of this bridge, which I got to be honest, I was quite surprised when I saw the numbers that come up that use it, and there's pure justification for supporting this, and I fully support the lead member and the local members in wanting to get this up and running. And it's a plea to Welsh Government. You know, this is a link to the rural communities, bringing people together, you know, with high usage. So please look at this. And I remind every other member that's in this room at the moment, any one of us could be in this position in our own patches at any time. And that's the reality for me. So fully supportive and hope Welsh Government pull their finger out and support it as well.
Thank you. Did you want to come back, Brian?
Yeah, please. Yeah, just to chuck in another card, if you like, another string to the bow. I've certainly promoted what I'm going to say now, because active travel is so high up on the agenda of Welsh Government. I believe that our robust business plan for the replacement of the bridge potentially is going to include an active travel element. And if we get that in there and pad it out with the connectivity to Trefn, one way, Tremarchy on the other, and over to Rhyddlan, then it bolsters the case up, it gives us a stronger case. And I think that could be an element that could swing it on the funding. But that's only my personal view. But I'm definitely keen on we put it in there and we've got the traffic engineers looking at it.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Any other comments from cabinet members? No, that seems clear. Yeah, just because before I call the local members in, I just see the recommendations as assuring the communities that we're going to try and best to draw funding down from whatever means to get this bridge or the access from one community to the other back to where it should be. And it's right that we do respond to the consultation, the usage, and put a recommendation in, which gives, I hope the communities are assured that we are going to try and do all that we can to do that. Hopefully, if members are minded to support it today. So I'll invite the two local members. Christine, please, first.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously,
Sorry, Christine, to cross. Do you mind putting the screen off, please? We couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I'm having horrible issues this morning with my internet. Obviously, it is situated, or it was situated in a rural community, and it provided a vital link, this bridge between sort of Tremerchion and Trefnant. And it has had a devastating impact on both socially and economically. It has affected businesses, and not immediately locally in the wider area. Sort of agricultural contractors and farmers have, it's been difficult for them. What concerns me, what I do want to give a shout out to the community is that they have engaged, and it has shown the strength of feeling for 350 people to engage, no, 750 people to engage with this exercise has been brilliant, and it just demonstrates how important this bridge is to our communities. What concerns me is the funding is not guaranteed. That does concern me, that if Welsh Government don't see this as a priority, what will Denbighshire do as a sort of plan B? And can we do anything now to establish a rapport with Welsh Government to get those lines of communication open and talking while we're pulling together a business plan? Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Christine. Tony, can you just bear those questions in mind, and I'll ask you to come back after Meirig has spoken, please, to respond. Meirig, please.
Diolch yn fawr, Achus Arweinydd ac aelodau.
Thank you, respected leader and members. Thank you very much for listening to us this morning. Thank you to Christine also for all the work that she has done. She's done her very best with myself and the people of Trefnant to move things forward. Obviously, this is vitally important. You know what it is. It's happened in the county previously where a bridge has been lost and local people lose the ability to cross over. But worse than that, it's the use of petrol and diesel, because in order to reach Trefnant or Tremerchion, we've now got to go through St Asaph or up towards Bodfari and turn that way. One or two things. I don't feel that your recommendation is strong enough, especially, I've got it in Welsh in front of me, that the Cabinet confirms support for the principle of replacing the bridge. And this is the part where I want to ask for an amendment. Subject to. Can I ask kindly that somebody improves that and strengthens that part, and to make it read by ensuring the necessary funding to do so? Because what you're saying is, if there isn't funding available, we won't do anything about it, but that's not good enough for the people of Trefnant and Tremerchion, is it? So if you could kindly look at that part again, and maybe the lead member will do that. And thank you to Brian for all his hard work. Also in 4.2, the bridge is safeguarded by CADU. It's listed, and I think it's important that I can't remember whether it's a grade 1 or grade 2 listed, but that should be in the report and in the minutes. 5.1. My comment about that is it'll to improve the collaborations between Tremnant, CLWYD and Tremirchion. That will continue to improve things between the 2 or the 3 parishes. That there is working together, as Councillor Christine Marston said, they depend on this bridge to be able to do that. And I'm sure that you remember that we spent down on the coast. We don't want the sea to take over parts of Denbighshire, and I'm sure you don't want this river to win and have no bridge to be able to cross it. Thank you very much for your time listening to me this morning. Thank you. Thank you to the 2 local members.
Tony first, please.
Sorry, Leader, was that me? You said my sound wasn't.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Christine, Eric's thinking out.
Okay, yeah, no problem. First of all, I'd just like to agree with Councillor Marsden about the response from the community to the engagement exercise. It was extremely good, and we received many more responses to this engagement exercise than we would normally receive through engagement exercises run by the council. So that really does demonstrate the strength of feeling in the community. So thank you to everybody who responded. In terms of can we start talking to Welsh Government sooner? We genuinely think that before we make a formal approach to Welsh Government, that we need to have a robust business case to make that kind of worthwhile. Although, having said that, we have flagged this with Welsh Government already, and we did so as soon as the bridge was lost, because we kind of made that clear that we would be looking to Welsh Government to help fund this the replacement of this bridge if we were going to try and do that. So Welsh Government are aware of our position on that already, and but as I say, we do want to have a robust business case before we make that approach formally. We think that's the best way to do it. Others may disagree, of course. In terms of a plan B, well, Julian and others may want to come back on this issue, but I think Julian has obviously raised the point already that currently the council hasn't got any provision for this in its medium-term financial plan to fund the replacement of this bridge. And actually, I think the view is, or certainly it's my view, that it's not reasonable to expect the council of this size to fund a project like this. There was a consequence of a significant flood event, and that the council should be looking to Welsh Government for support. If that approach isn't successful, I think there is obviously another conversation that needs to be had around what's the council's position on that. But that's not the discussion that I've requested to have today. But other members, particularly Julian, may have something they want to say about it. On Merrick's points, the recommendation not being strong enough, I think that's kind of linked to that point that Christine also made about what happens if we're unsuccessful in getting funding. So I think maybe there's a further debate to be had about that proposal around the wording of the recommendation, which others may wish to contribute to. In terms of the question about paragraph 4.2, it was a grade 2 listed structure. So just to give some clarity on that. I'm not sure if I've missed anything out there, or if there are other questions. I think I've possibly covered everything.
That'll be fine for now, Tony. We just need to be clear on the recommendation as it stands. my understanding from Brian, and I'll ask Julian to come in on the financial elements of it, is that this recommendation for today is about agreeing to the principle of finding funding to deliver the bridge. And it's right and proper at this stage that we test Welsh Government's commitment to that now. That doesn't mean that we can't come back in 3 months or 6 months, whatever, to revisit our financial commitments to that. So this is just the start of allocating funding for the project, and it's right and proper at this stage, unless Brian tells me differently now, that this recommendation should hold firm for now. That doesn't mean that we can't firm up a recommendation or revisit the financial commitment, as I said, in a few months. But the point of this recommendation was to assure the community that we're going to look for funding avenues, try and do as much as we can, and we can bring a report back to Cabinet if the Welsh Government consultation or conversation fails. And then we will have to look at an alternative funding possibly for it. That I think is the position which Brian was trying to get to today, just to start the conversation. Can I, just before I call you in, Julian, can I ask Brian, do you think is that the right position at this stage, Brian, as lead minister?
That's correct, leader, and I would agree with that, but I would add on to it that if, well, first of all, we need to pursue Welsh Government because we believe they should provide the funding to replace the bid. So we really don't want to be showing them another hand that, well, if you say no, Mr. Welsh Government, we have discussed other avenues and we'll fund it through route A, B or C. And so I'm happy with the recommendation. What I'd say to the local members is, and I've already said it at the beginning of this report, I will support you in our efforts to have the bridge replaced. And if Welsh Government do turn us down on the funding, I've already said I've got a high degree of confidence that they won't do that and they will support us. You know, I will be there to look at what are the options, what can we do to replace this bridge and get the funding from somewhere else. So I'd give the local members that assurance this morning.
Okay, thank you. June, did you want to come back on the suggested financial side of things?
Yes, it was just to pick up, and I think yourself and Brian and Tony, between you, probably picked up a lot of what I was going to say. I fully understand where Merrick and Christine are coming from as local members in terms of wanting to particularly Merrick's request to firm up the recommendation. However, I suppose the unintended consequences of what that would entail are if we said that we guarantee at this stage that we will pay for it. What we are saying is that essentially the fallback position is we will pay the full cost of replacing the bridge. Now that may well be a decision that we may need to look at in the fullness of time, but the correct priority would be we create the business plan, we submit it to Welsh Government in the strongest possible terms. The likelihood is in any event, they're not going to come back and say we're going to fund it 100%. So we're probably going to have to look to put some money in ourselves. But it is only at the stage where all external funding opportunities have been exhausted that we should be coming back with how we would be looking to fund it internally, would be my suggestion. Otherwise, for exactly I mean, I suppose I have to be careful. You never know who's listening in on these meetings. But as a tactical thing, if we said we're going to pay for it anyway, why would Welsh Government even consider paying it?
Yeah. No,
I think we need to follow the correct hierarchy of doing it. And I appreciate local members and the local communities will be frustrated by that, but it's the best way to secure the best outcome, in my opinion. Steve may want to say something different, by all means.
No, okay, let's just stick on that, thinking about looking. I think we got into a clear position that the recommendations should stay as they are, and then we go through the phases of seeing where the funding comes from. I think that's a reasonable position to be in. Steve, are you okay with that approach?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Brad yes, I think so. And just to add, it is on the horizon scanning and will form part of the medium-term capital strategy that we're formulating in the spring now that we've got the statement of accounts sorted. So it is in the thinking, it's on the list of projects as well as all the flooding ones, etc. So it's in there as one of the projects that we know we probably have to find some funding for along the line somewhere. So it is on the list.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. Before I come to the Chief Exec, Emrys, did you want to say anything?
You might think, why is Emrys interested? Because it's not in my area. The same as Councillor Hilditch Roberts already said, it could hit any part of the county. Can I go back to what Councillor Brian Jones said? By the way, I agree with the recommendation put forward and I agree with what's been said. What Councillor Brian Jones said about the possibility of having a temporary bridge there, and there were safety reasons and so on, and standards which prevented that. Am I being naive in asking the question? Is it worthwhile knocking on the door of the Ministry of Defence, Royal Engineers in particular, to see whether there's anything that the UK government can do to ensure that the road can be opened on a temporary basis safely for local users and people travelling from other communities to be able to use the crossing? Because it's obvious for me that there's going to be a few years before we have a new bridge in place. Thank you. On that point, Emrys, Brian has looked into that, hasn't he? The officers didn't feel it was possible. I don't know whether Brian wants to go after that again. I think it's, if you keep carrying on, if we ask, I might be totally naive asking the question, and Brian's already done that, and I acknowledge that. But maybe if a conversation can be had with the Royal Engineers, who maybe can show another way. That's just a question I'm asking.
Tony, have you got any thinking about that? Suggestion from Emrys?
Could I come in, Leader?
Yes, please.
Tim Towers may also wish to contribute to this. But we, as I said earlier, we have been undertaking some initial work to look at the feasibility of replacing this bridge. And the advice that we've been getting is that a temporary bridge here isn't practical. The location of the bridge makes it really difficult, and the conditions of the ground in this location. The most difficult aspect of this bridge is going to be the foundations, and it partly goes back to the reasons why we lost the bridge in the first place. But the advice that we've been getting in our early feasibility work is that a temporary bridge may well end up costing as much as a permanent bridge here. So we haven't been looking to pursue that as a line of thinking. Tim, is there anything else you want to say about that?
Slight correction. I don't think a temporary bridge would cost as much as the permanent bridge, but from our understanding, it would be a considerable, maybe £1 million just to put a temporary bridge in. But the existing foundations that are still in place hamper putting a new one in. And also it is in the floodplain. So any bridge that we did put there would risk being washed away at more than a permanent solution. So we have looked at the logistics of it, but it just doesn't seem feasible and justifiable at the moment.
Sorry, Tim, thanks for providing that clarity. I obviously misunderstood an aspect of that message, but the conclusion is that it doesn't look practical or feasible to look at a temporary solution here.
Okay, that's clear. Christine, did you want to come back?
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Leader. Just a quick sort of clarity really on the business case that officers will be pulling together. What sort of time frame are they looking? When do they hope to approach Welsh Government with a business case? Thank you, Leader.
Tony?
I'm gonna ask Tim for his thoughts on this, leader, if that's okay, because Tim's working a lot more closely with the team on it. Tim, when do you think we might be in a position to go to Welsh Government with the business case? I know we need to do some more work first.
Yeah, perhaps for the purpose of the meeting, we do need a bit of clarity about what the business case is for. We've touched on the existing foundations of the bridge. We need to fully establish what the ground conditions are there, so that any new structure will last over the, we want it there for 200 years, don't we, minimum. So we need to do ground investigation works, and also an important consideration in the planning is NRW consent about works in the river. So they will require us to do some modelling of the river so that we're not having a knock-on effect in case of flood conditions elsewhere on the river. So they're really important parts of the business case. There's no point going to Welsh Government for funding for a bridge that isn't going to get through the planning process. So they're really important elements of what we need to do, and we suspect it might take us probably early spring before we actually get to that stage where we can start developing the business case. We're working with consultants at the moment. They're saying that lead-in times for things like ground investigation are up to 2 months. So even just to get to that point, I might as well be open now and say that's where we're at. But I'm thinking spring before we can develop that business case.
So it's going to be beyond spring, Tim, when we're in a position to submit that business case, isn't it? Realistically,
it is.
We're talking potentially summer, aren't we? Is that right?
By the time we've developed it to a point where we can have a meaningful discussion, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
Okay.
on that particular point, therefore, can I ask Brian, I'm sure he will anyway, work with officers to be working up that business case, because things sometimes there's a bit of a lull during the election, isn't it? That the foundations, pardon the pun for that one, but are in place to continue this, that the business case, the timeline for developing the business case is not lost. So if we can get that done as soon as possible, either the end of this term of council or very early at the beginning of next council. So I'm sure Brian will do that anyway, if that's any reassurance.
Do that, Lee. I will do that, leader. In a perfect world, we can get it wrapped up before the end of this term. That's got to be the goal, if it's achievable.
The other thing I would say, leader, is we will obviously be keeping the two local members fully informed of progress as we're developing this work, and we will go to the MAG on a regular basis if the MAG are happy for us to do so, to keep all of the local members there updated. We're due to go to the next MAG early December, so we can discuss that with them then.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you. Mary, got eisiau dod yn ôl?
Mary, did you wish to come back in as local member? Just to ask exactly what Tony has just outlined he's going to do, that we see this business case, as you refer to it, for us to see what's in it, because it's vital. It's absolutely essential, as the officers have said, that this is tight and to purpose, because if not, I'm sure that the informed people in Cardiff government will find holes in it very quickly. So I support the officers that we need to have a very strong case to go down to Cardiff. Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. Thank you, Mary. Paul, please.
Thank you, Leader. Sorry, I was just typing something and lost track. Obviously, I'm fully in favour of all this. I may have missed it in all the crackling on the internet, but which fund are we applying to get this money?
At this stage, I'm not sure which actual funding stream it'll be. I'm sure the officers are quite familiar where the funding is allocated from Welsh Government. At this stage, probably all we've got is Welsh Government, unless Tony has further detail to respond to that.
I think what we're talking about is engaging with Welsh Government and discussing with them what potential funding stream may be available, Leader, in relation to this.
Paul?
Diolch, that's all I can say at the moment. Thank you.
That's fine. Good. Okay. So that's it. There is an emerging position there. And just to give assurance to the local members as well, I'm sure Brian and officers will be keeping you fully briefed of things as they happen over the next few weeks and months. Okay, no other comments from cabinet members? Okay, Brian, do you want to take us through the recommendation, please?
Yes, Leader. So the recommendation at 3.1 reads the Cabinet.
Sorry, Brian, I missed the most important one. I forgot about the chief exec. Sorry, Graham.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Graham.
No problem, Leader. I think events have overtaken themselves since I put my my hand up. I think that's a good debate. I'm clear. I agree with the recommendation. I just wanted to say that. I think the recommendation is clear to me and is the right recommendation. Tony's already picked up the point that he's given a commitment to keep local members and MAG updated, and I wanted to reassure members that was what will happen, and I'll be holding Tony to account on that. No, Tony's nodding. He'll do that, I'm sure. And it's really about today establishing the principle so we can move forward with that business case, have those discussions with external providers, and then obviously bring external finance providers, and then bring a future report back to Cabinet once we know what that position is. But I just wanted to come in and reassure everybody that I agreed with that clear recommendation. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Graham, and apologies. Okay, Brian.
Okay, yeah, and I'll add on to the Chief Executive's comments there. I will also keep Mr. Ward and Mr. Towers and their team to hold them to account on communication, etc. So the recommendation at 3.1 reads: the Cabinet confirms support for the principle of replacing the bridge, subject to securing the necessary funding to do so. This will include making an approach to Welsh Government to request the external funding.
Thank you, Brian. Is that seconded? Julian? Yeah. Is everybody in agreement? Nobody against? Okay, that's been moved. Thank you, Brian, for that. Right, we'll go back now to agenda item 5, and that's MEIFOD update. Phil is with us now. Okay, Bobby, do you want to start that?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I think just to be on the safe side, I will turn my video off. And can I just say what a pity it is that every meeting we have to worry about the IT situation. What a shame we can't have a meeting without worrying about it. I'm just throwing that in there. So I'll turn my video off. Right, so the report today follows the recommendation from performance scrutiny on the 14th of October, which I am pleased to say proposes the safe reopening of MEIFOD as soon as essential maintenance replacement work is completed. The decision of the performance scrutiny followed on from an engagement process during the summer and the findings of the task and finish and officer and members group. I must thank all of those involved: Arwell as chair of scrutiny, Christine chair of the task and finish group, and of course Phil, Jenny, Katie and others who pulled together all the information. I know how hard you have all worked to get this information all together. MEIFOD has been closed since March 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as such, the Council has taken the opportunity to consider other possibilities and activities, as well as wood products, to provide a more varied, comprehensive service, broaden the scope, and be more inclusive and sustainable into a secure future. MEIFOD Wood Products was set up in 1971, which is 50 years ago this year. And obviously it is a very important and appreciated part of the Denbigh community. It is one of 4 Denbighshire County Council enterprises that provide real-life working environments for people supported by the Learning Disability Service and managed by Community Support Services. All of these enterprises have been under review to improve and modernise. I would like to emphasise, as Cabinet lead member responsible, at no stage have I considered closure, and nor, to my knowledge, has anybody else. But I do agree that changes are needed to improve the offer at MEIFOD. Over the next 4 years remaining on the lease, I would like us to work closely together with those who work in MEIFOD to make a sustainable economic enterprise, even if that does mean bringing in changes and increasing the number of activities and products made. It is our intention that all interested parties will be kept informed about plans for reopening MEIFOD and also be kept informed about any future plans, including, of course, to liaise with the families of present and future users. Before going to the recommendations, I'm sure you will have questions for us, and Phil and Katie are here to assist with this. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Bobby. Phil, do you want to add to anything which Bobby said there?
The ARC leader, just to say that I think this gives us a really good opportunity to provide a much bigger service at MEIFOD and actually provide for a lot more people than it currently does provide with a different range of activities. So I think it's a really positive report.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, before opening up to cabinet members, can I invite Arwell, please, to give us your update from your scrutiny?
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Mr Cadeirydd, Arweinydd.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. Mr Leader, it's my honour as the leader, the chair of the Scrutiny Committee, to bring the recommendations before you. I would like to thank the members of the Task and Finish Group under Councillor Marston's leadership for their previous work. So the Performance Scrutiny Committee has discussed this as a single item, a very important item for us to discuss, and the Task and Finish Group had started the work on our behalf. First of all, we recommend to the Cabinet that MEIFOD is reopened as soon as possible as a council-run service at in the current premises, with added investment in the services provided. And please note the word investment. Secondly, that work starts to look at better and improved ways of working and developing MEIFOD, as well as getting an external social enterprise to provide activities at the current premises. These don't necessarily have to be woodwork activities. The aim is to look for long-term sustainability for MEIFOD, and that the provision in the future corresponds with all the legislation and the Welsh language policy of the council. We were very pleased to invite one of the mothers who has got her son has been receiving support from MEIFOD for years, and it was lovely to have her at the meeting. So those are the recommendations, and I'm hoping that the Cabinet will accept them. I would like to come back to speak about this, about the ideas that I've got about the future of MEIFOD. Thank you, Mr Chairman. Thank you, Ariel. That was very clear and very helpful.
Any comments from Cabinet members on this? Mark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader. So, yeah, anniversary today of my visit there, obviously before lockdown to MEIFOD. Great visit, great to meet the staff and the people using the facility, and it's great that we're talking about a positive future and reopening. But I have one question and one comment. So, as local member for this facility, along with Councillor Thomas, we'd like to be kept informed about any plans for reopening and be kept informed about any future changes to the facility, if any, and we'd like to support officers if needed, and also communicate with families who presently are there and any future users. So just like to a commitment of lead members on officers on that, if that's okay. And lastly, the report states it's anticipated that the service would be able to reopen by February 2022, or this could be sooner if works are completed quickly. Are we happy it won't be later than February? And is any earlier looking possible? Just that point. So one question and one commitment, please. Thank you.
Just to say on that, Mark, that I did include that wording almost word for word, what you've just said, in my lead up to the report. As for the reopening, I wish it could open before Christmas, and I know everybody is working as hard as they possibly can to get it open absolutely as soon as we can. So I don't think, Phil may correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we can promise a date at the moment, but it will be absolutely as soon as possible.
Thanks, Bobby. We do have an update in terms of some of the work that needs to be undertaken. So work on the machines, on the woodworking machines, is due to take place before the 10th of December, so the week before then. So that's an estimate by the company who are awaiting parts. As we all know, there is a difficulty in terms of logistics and lorry drivers and all sorts of things, but that's assuming they can get the parts. They are planning to do that the week before the 10th. Replacement air filters will be installed on the 7th, so that should be the woodworking side of it boxed off very well. Fire risk assessments and fire officer visits have concluded already, and there's minimal recommendations from there, so that shouldn't delay matters, which then comes to the issue that may well take a little bit longer than we would like, which is the heating side. There's two boilers in the building, one on the east side, one on the west side. The one on the west side just needs new filters replacing, and that'd be fine. It's got a new fresh air feed, that's okay. The boiler on the east side, which was decommissioned some time ago, does need to be brought back in, and that needs a bit more work on it. Stuff around an outside flue needs to be put in, or the boiler moved to the other side of the building. And obviously there are things like asbestos regulations and stuff, which mean that we're going to have to put scaffolding up outside if we want to put a flue. So that may well delay. Our hope is that it won't be delayed any longer than the beginning of February, but some things are outside our control, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks for that. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Any other cabinet members? No.
Yeah, sorry, Leader. If I can, I just want to just Bobby, just on the recommendation. Should it be MEIFOD services to reopen? Because as we know, the Phil Gilroy is finishing, retiring with us soon, and we don't know in the future we may not be the cabinet. I think just maybe if we put the word services in there, that secures that it's, because it would be easy to close MEIFOD, wouldn't it, afterwards? I just want to make sure the services are secure in the future. It's only just dawned on me. I apologise, but as we were having that debate with Bobby, I don't know what you think, Bobby.
I'm quite happy with the recommendations.
Okay, you're happy with the recommendations as they stand, Bobby, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that's clear. Okay, any other cabinet members? No? Right, I'll open up to members now. Meirig, please.
Thank you once again, respected Leader, and thank you to Arwell's committee and Christine for their work. One thing that came across to me with the mother who was conveying her concerns to the committee meeting was, and I hope that you will consider this, the wording of 3.2.1, new ways of working in MEIFOD to improve learning and skills across a range of activities, including working with timber. Can we be sure that there won't be any, and this was what the mother was concerned about, that they would be forced to do a range of work? And if the young man wanted to do woodwork only, that we should accept that and not force them to do a range of different tasks if they don't want to do that. That was her concern. Her son really liked doing the woodwork and not any other types of work. So if you could please make sure that that will be in place once it's reopened. She seemed to be very concerned about that.
Mary, can I just say, I don't know whether it's the translation, but because obviously I just heard the translation, but nobody in any of our services would be forced to do anything. Absolutely no way on anything at all, under any circumstances.
Diolch yn fawr, mae hwnna yn
Thank you
ddiolchgar
very
iawn.
much. I'm very grateful to hear that, and I'm sure that the mother will be very pleased to hear that also.
Diolch, Mr Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and thank you for this report. I agree with it, and I'm happy with it. And I would like to propose one thing. This isn't a place that's just important to Denbigh, it's important to Denbighshire, the whole of the county. It's important to individuals and parents across the county. But I'm talking this morning as one of the local members. And I know that Councillor Young has said this already. Both of us would be very pleased to help the officers as the work on developing MEIFOD goes ahead. And I think that we both have an important role in the future of this very important centre. So once again, I'm asking whether officers and the lead member are happy to include the two local members as links between the community and MEIFOD Centre. So I'm asking that kindly. That's all. Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. Thank you.
Diolch, Rhys. Can I
Thank
just
you,
say
Rhys.
we are in the process of setting up a group of people, including local members. It's not finalised yet, but you will be the first to know how this when this starts, and to follow through everything that's happening and into the future.
Iawn, Rhys. Okay,
Diolch yn fawr.
Emrys,
Thank you very
please.
much.
Hello, Emrys. Okay, na I ddod yn ôl.
Okay, I'll come back to Emrys. Arwel, do you want to come back in, Arwel? Yes, thank you very much. You might not understand why I took on the disability champion role in Denbighshire. The reason was I had a cousin, he died this year, Emyr. Emyr loved going to a similar centre that you had. He was going to Carnarvon. He was brought up by Trevan Llynogwen, and his nephew is Sean Taylor. You've dealt with Sean Taylor through Denbighshire County Council, and I'm sure that Sean would like to help you to do activities or to improve MEIFOD. Sean is a very lovely gentleman, and he's helped people with disabilities, and he thought the world of his uncle Emyr. Can I also say that there are other funding sources available to improve this? For example, the Steve Morgan Foundation. And of course, we need to go after Welsh Government. Welsh Government say that they're willing to help everyone. So people with disabilities deserve every support. And at the moment, I feel that this has been dragging on for so long. So I'm concerned that people who have got disabilities are totally dependent now on their parents, and they're under great strain. So hopefully MEIFOD will be reopened soon. Thank you to Councillor Bobby Feely for all her work in the background and this officers. But please, can we get this place open as soon as possible? I'm hoping that it happens before February, if possible. But there are other places that you can go after, and please remember about Sean Taylor. Thank you, Arwel, for sharing that information. And I'm sure that Bobby will consider some of the points that you've shared with us in order to progress this and make it more sustainable for the future for everybody who needs the services. Thank you, Errol. Glenn?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much. We're very fortunate in Denbigh and in Denbighshire that we have lots of third-party organisations offering all sorts of different things to the service users, whether it be art or drama, photography, metal detecting, you know, all these sorts of things go on. What we have very little of are skilled places where you learn a trade and you make something from scratch, and at the end you have this this product. I would be very concerned that if MEIFOD wood opens up as something keeping the woodworking, but then also extending into other areas, we will start to lose that skilled hands-on side of MEIFOD. Over 50 years, an awful lot of people have gone through that service and have gained a lot of skills through working there. Yeah, MEIFOD Wood is not a business. It is a service that we provide. It's fortunate that they end up making products that they can then sell, which mitigates against the cost of keeping MEIFOD Wood open. I just hope that if we are going to do other things at MEIFOD other than woodworking, that it is another skilled profession that doesn't take away from the wood side of it as well. You know, the workforce that we have there are very skilled. The service users are also helped with staff from elsewhere. It seems to me that if we're not careful, we'll water down the woodworking side of it to fit in other things. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning behind that is. You know, I'm trying to get my head around why it is we don't just reopen it as MEIFOD Wood, invest in the building, invest in the service, and carry on as it was before lockdown. So if somebody could answer why it is we're now looking at putting in other services there, because it's been such a success over the last 50+ years, I'm not sure why we would try to get that down.
Okay.
That's just my point. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Glenn. I think 3.3 of the recommendations, I'm not sure if it's going to go down that line, but it's right to look at options. But I take your point that we want to keep what's there now and even enhance on that. Bobby, I don't know if you want to add or respond to Glenn's points there.
Well, not really. I mean, I just, you know, I'm delighted for the future of MEIFOD. I'm quite excited about it, and the option of bringing possibly other aspects to it, to include a more inclusive, maybe more younger people, maybe more women, to get more people involved and in. I don't really want to close off any option. I think whilst we're looking at MEIFOD, doing it up, bringing it back into use, you know, I don't feel completely that it must be exactly as it was 50 years ago. It's just, you know, maybe Phil can add more to that.
Thank you, Bobby. Phil, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to say that numbers have been falling who attend MEIFOD over the last few years before COVID, on the basis that there are other things that people want to do coming into the service from children's services, for example. It's not necessarily something that everybody wants to do, and I think, as Bobby says, you know, this gives us the opportunity to broaden the range of activities, make it more inclusive, and encourage more people to actually use the services that are there. Because without diversifying a bit, I don't think that the woodworking would survive, you know, for long, because of lack of interest from people wanting to do that. The referrals come through our community complex disabilities team. And, you know, they promote MEIFOD in the same way they promote anything else. But, you know, the response from a lot of people is, that's not for me, I want to do something else. So, you know, if we are able to provide something else, so much the better, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you for that. Glenn, does that address some of the concerns you've got? That we're moving forward with an open mind, I would suggest.
Yeah, it doesn't really put my mind at ease because you know, but there's nothing. We've not seen anything about what it would be expanded to. Phil then mentioned about numbers have been dropping and referrals have been dropping, but are Denbighshire County Council trying to get those referrals, you know, or are we going to other service providers to offer other things ahead of MEIFOD? You know, so I just want to, you know, I'm interested to know why referrals would be dropping when they've been so successful over the last 50. And it's not about keeping something as it was 50 years ago. It's about keeping something as it was 18 months ago. So, yeah, I just wonder why the referrals have been dropping.
Phil?
Yeah, I'll bring Katie on that note because she's got a bit more of the detail than I have.
Hi, thanks, Glenn. I think there's a couple of points really. We welcome the support of members, and it's really encouraging that we have got this support and this endorsement to develop MEIFOD. In terms of your query about why it needs to change at all, I think what we know is what's valued in MEIFOD is the practical manual activity that's lacking in other services that are out there, and that's something we want to capitalise on, and as Bobby said, make it more accessible for more people. Referrals across our work opportunities have dropped, and I think that the main thing is that people have got choice and control, which is what we want to give people. If people have got choice, that they're choosing at times not to access some of these services. So we need to evolve to make it more attractive for more people going forwards. But to keep hold of the heart of what MEIFOD means, which is around that practical and manual work that people get to do in that setting.
Okay, thank you for that. Paul, please. Paul Pennington.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just unmuting. I was going to say pretty much same as Glenn really beat me to it. When Phil Gilroy says that numbers are dropping, that surprises me because I work with adults with disabilities and I have done for many years. And I know one of the hardest things to do is find them a suitable work placement. And I know many people who would gladly use MEIFOD, not necessarily within Denbighshire though. Is it possible that we expand the service to go outside the borders of our county? Or is it possible that we have open days for people to see what takes place and to promote the place with people? I mean, the numbers of people with disabilities are not going down. If anything, they're increasing as diagnoses improve. So I'm sure I don't want to you know criticize Phil Gilroy unnecessarily, but I am surprised when he says the numbers are going down.
I agree with you, Paul. There are exciting possibilities out there. We do want to expand, and we do want to make it a vibrant, new, exciting, more modern approach to what people are looking for to do in life now. So, you know, bring it on. I mean, we are all, you know, I've had a couple of meetings since the performance scrutiny, and all I can say is that everybody is bubbling with optimism about what we're going to do going forward. So please trust us and go with us, because the future for MEIFOD is looking very exciting.
Thanks, Bobby. And I do think, you know, the recommendation 3.3 should cover some of the concerns that members have raised today and take account. I'm sure officers are taking account of that, and we'll come up with a model that will address some of those issues and make MEIFOD have a more sustainable future. That's got to be the intention, isn't it? And that's what I get from the opportunity that this debate creates as well. Emrys, please.
Yeah, dwi'n all one. Sorry.
Yes, I'm back now. Apologies. I have to change my device. Everything had frozen on the county laptop. I'm on my personal iPad now. I've heard that what's been said. I missed a little bit in the middle. When Glenn was speaking and Paul now, I must say that I'm also concerned about the risk of seeing what's happening now in MEIFOD being watered down by maybe introducing too many new elements to the service. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be introduced at all, but maybe are we at risk of watering down the current work of MEIFOD wood products. That's what it's called. And to me, that's the main value of MEIFOD wood products. I bought furniture from there in the past. It's excellent quality. It's used across the country. I heard yesterday that there's a bench on one of the ships that looks at the bottom of the ocean, and we should make publicity of that because it shows the value of the place. But it's not just a financial thing, it's a special service for the users. It gives them a structure to their day, the people who go there to produce these wood products. And by selling the products, when you compare the core products and then the labour, you've got 2 to 3 times the value being produced. So please, please, please retain the woodworking in MEIFOD wood products and make space, if at all possible, to introduce new elements that might appeal more to other users. Thank you, Emrys. Gwyneth, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. I'm sorry, my papers aren't available at the moment. I take it that people have to pay to go to work in MEIFOD, and is there enough support from the private sector? I know in the past with the public sector that many people attended, but now there are more in the private sector. Are they enabling their people to attend? Thank you. Thank you, Gwyneth. Phil.
Sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question. When you say the private sector, private business sector enabling people to attend MEIFOD, was that the question?
Yes, and is there a charge? And will the charge be going up?
The service provided at MEIFOD is a community care service, so it's provided under the Social Services and Wellbeing Act and falls under our charging policy. So we would charge people to attend. I don't know the figure off the top of my head. I think it was I think, and Katie might know more than me, it was £30 a session, I think, last time that I was aware. Obviously, that's capped by Welsh Government at £100 per week maximum that anybody would have to pay for any of their care, including that provided at MEIFOD. So there is a charge for those who are means tested to pay that charge. In terms of the private sector, we have a range of organisations that provide work opportunities to people with learning disabilities through our job finding service, and some of them do actually turn into paid employment. Most of them tend to be voluntary type work, and I know I've met a couple of people doing that before COVID, when I was able to get out and about and see what the team do. Somebody working in a stables, which was fascinating, and somebody working in the co-op in St Asaph as well, doing a really good. And I think had just been taken on. So the private sector do a bit, but not necessarily. They don't have as many people attending as the likes of MEIFOD or POPT or others.
No, sorry, by the private sector, I meant private homes, where we've got private homes here in Denby for people with learning difficulties.
So yeah. I mean, if you live in supported living, you may well attend MEIFOD or POPT or whatever as part of that. So yes, they do.
Thank you.
That's up as yes. Okay, thank you. Graham, please. Graham Bowes, Chief Exec.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to come in on the discussion around the different types of uses at MEIFOD, including working with timber. I think, in fairness, the recommendation that is in front of Cabinet today reflects the discussion at scrutiny. I was at that discussion, and I refer to paragraph 8.2 of this report, little 2, where that performance scrutiny recommendation, I say, is reflected in the recommendation that's going to Cabinet, i.e. not all the activities necessarily have to be woodwork. And that was the conclusion that scrutiny came to as a result of their discussion, is reflected in the paper and the report today. So I think that concern around what does it dilute and should it just be woodwork is one that's been considered quite extensively at scrutiny, and the scrutiny recommendation backbenchers, if you like, can take comfort in the fact that the Cabinet recommendation today reflects the conclusions of scrutiny. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham, for that. Okay, that's it. I'll come back. Cabinet members, haven't heard the conversation. Have you got any comments?
If it just quickly, Leader, for me, just to touch on what Graham said there, I think proposal 3.2 and 3.3 covers it. So I get the concerns, but I do believe it's covered by the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. No more comments from Cabinet members. Okay, Bobby, please, can I come to you for the recommendations, please?
Okay, just one moment. I'll turn off my video again. So the recommendations are MEIFOD to be reopened as a council-run service for adults with learning disability as soon as it is safe to do so, following the necessary investment into the existing building and facilities. It is anticipated that the service would be able to reopen by February 22, although this could be sooner if works are completed quicker. Officers to provide options for members to consider through the established political process on 3.2.1, new ways of working at MEIFOD to improve learning and skills across a range of activities, including working with timber. 3.2.2, alternative service delivery models for the operation of MEIFOD with a view to improving the long-term sustainability of the service as the lease on the building expires in 4 years. 3.3, officers to establish a stakeholder group including representative family members and individuals who attend MEIFOD or their advocates, to ensure that they are fully engaged in the reopening of the service, along with the developing any future options for its operation. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Bobby. That's very clear. Is there a seconder for that?
Happy to second that, Leader.
Mark, a second it. Everybody in favour can just raise your hands, please. I take it who you raised your hand. I haven't seen you for a while behind the screen. Is there anybody against?
I'm still here, don't worry.
That's good. Nobody against, is there? Yeah, that's good. That's passing. Can I thank everybody for their involvement in getting those recommendations to where they are? They're very clear, and hopefully it'll move MEIFOD forward to the next generation. So diolch yn fawr am hwnna. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 7. This is the UK government levelling up the fund bid for approval for CLWYD West constituency. We are all by now familiar with the levelling up fund. We also have experience of knowing what and how to present a bid based on the submission that we provided in partnership with Wrexham Include South, which did end up as a success. This report is asking for your support to approve a bid for CLWYD West from Denbighshire's viewpoint. We are currently working with Conway and are aligning the bid from a thematic perspective. The projects in Appendix 1 have already been approved by local members on an individual basis, MAG as a group, as well as endorsed by the MP, which I referred to his comments and letter on page 31. I therefore do not feel there is any need to scrutinise the individual projects at this stage. But having said, this has been an intensive process, and working with members, Town Council and the MP has been crucial in the development of the bid to this stage and the emergence of the thematic approach required for submission. And it's true to say that we have relied on our local members in terms of the information that we have received from the community. In this instance, if successful, this will be an investment of 10 million in Denbighshire for Clwyd West, which will have a significant impact, and in the words of the MP, will be transformational. Because of the tight deadline, the new way of working and the importance of getting this bid right, we have been pretty robust in terms of sticking to the agreed process. And I would like to thank all members for their participation and engagement, and also realism when some of the projects which have been put forward have not ended up in the Levelling Up Fund. That does not mean that it's the end of that particular project. It just means that it didn't qualify either for this theme, it wasn't quite ready, but we are working to make sure that those projects can develop for further and future funding avenues, which will definitely be arising. And I'd also just like to say at this stage as well, we already have a good relationship with Welsh Government and are already investing from different funding streams in the communities. In fact, I think the Welsh Government have confidence in our ability to deliver. And if this is an additional funding stream, okay, it comes from Westminster and not Welsh Government, I think we have to get ourselves in a good position to be able to invest in our communities from another funding stream as well, which might be resource heavy, but we are an authority which is proud of being close to our communities, and wherever the funding streams come, we will go after that to make those communities more resilient. And I think it's important to note that point at this stage. So in terms of how we've got to where we are, I'll now ask Emlyn or Gareth just to give you a finer detail of what it was entailed in the process, please. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr arweinydd Emlyn sy'n bore da pawb. Diolch.
Thank you, Leader. It's Emlyn here. Thank you, everyone. Go through the process up to now, including the way that we scored the projects and the details that have gone into the projects themselves. As you said, Leader, we worked in a very inclusive way with the local members, and it was very important for us to work with the members closely on these projects under time pressures. As said, we wrote to every member in June to ask for project ideas and contacted the Ruthin Town Council and also the services within the County Council itself. Following getting the list of projects, we then scored each project, and that was a process that looked at various factors such as whether the factor was eligible for the fund itself, could it be delivered by March 2024? That was important to consider to make sure that that was clear, and also did the project fall within the theme of the bid, and I'll come to that in a minute. As already mentioned, if the project wasn't eligible for the Levelling Up Fund, we're certainly going to come back to the local members to see what funding could be used in the future to make sure that that project is further developed and is delivered in the future. So that was very important for us to explain to the local members that this wasn't the end for any particular project and that we supported moving the project forward. One thing that we worked very closely with the MP and local members with was developing the theme for the bid. And as it says in the report, the theme for this bid was culture and heritage, and also safeguarding and developing green spaces in the county. So there was a clear theme emerging from the bid itself and the list of projects. Following discussions with local members, we then needed to develop the business case for each of those projects. And that's been a great deal of of work for the officers, working closely with local members to make sure that we've got the indicative costs for every project, that we've got a clear time scale for the project, and also to ensure that we were following the clear guidance set out by UK government to make sure that we've got the best possible opportunity of being successful in the bid. So it was quite a lengthy process, but I hope that that sets out how we went about it. I'm not sure whether Gareth would like to add any further points or if there's anything that I haven't included. Gareth.
No, thank you. I think you've covered everything there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for that. Okay, I'll open to questions from cabinet members, please. Bobby, please.
Yeah. Well, just really, it's not so much a question. It's just to express my incredulity, if that's a word, on how this has been brought together in such a short time scale. And I must thank Emlyn's team, Gareth, James, Sandra, and whoever else, particularly Gareth, I know, who have managed to pull all these projects together. CLWYD West alone is, there are, I think I counted, I may be wrong, you'll correct me if I am, 13 projects in all going forward. I'd also, say to David Jones, the constituency MP for here and Conway, without him deciding that Ruthingham district, if you like, would benefit to the tune of about £10 million from the Levelling Up Fund from the UK government, we would not have had this opportunity to bring forward these projects. So, I hope, I know he's been 100% behind us, and I know he's approving of the bid, and I hope, against hope, that all this work will be rewarded with an affirmative response from the UK government. Although the amount of detail required was described as indicative, there was still an awful lot of info to be needed. And all those who brought forward the various projects outside of our team in the office, whatever the projects were, and there were, as I say, as I think I've counted 13 of them, they all had to have sufficient information, and it all needed to be done in a very tight time scale. So it's, a heartfelt thanks to all of those people who've managed to pull it all together in time for this cabinet meeting today. You've done an amazing job. And I hope at the end of the day that it does pay off. And I wonder, just one small question, do we know, once this is taken through to the UK government by the MP concerned, do we know how long we will need to wait before we know whether or not this has been successful?
At this stage, Bobby, no, we do not know how long it'll take. My understanding deadline of being delivered by March 24th stands. So I'd expect a quick turnaround and respond, because there's a lot of work here, isn't there?
There is an awful lot of work, I know, but I just wondered if, anyway, I just wanted really this spot on the agenda, if you like, to give my thanks and gratitude to all those people, whether they be people leading the individual projects or the team who are trying to pull all the projects together across CLWYD West, Vale of Clwyd and CLWYD South. You've done a really good job, and you couldn't have done more, I don't think.
Thank you, Bobby. I totally agree with that. They've worked tirelessly on this. The one thing I forgot to say as well, Bobby, we did meet the team, that's the regional team that's leading on the LUF, and I did raise with them the need to make decisions very quickly so that we can start delivering on these, again, tight time scale by March 24. So they are aware of a need for a quick turnaround around that. Thank you. Mark?
Leader, it's Graham here. Sorry, can I just come in on just on one point of detail there? I thank Councillor Bobby Feely for her kind comments in relation to the officers. Just one point of clarity: the bid needs to be submitted to UK government by Denbighshire County Council. We are the submitting body, but what we require is the endorsement and support of the MP. It's not the MP that would submit the bid, as it were. It's down to us as the local authority to do that. Just for clarity, in case that was slightly
sorry,
misunderstood.
I meant with his endorsement.
Yes, yeah. No, Bobby. It was just a point of clarity. I'm sure you didn't. It was just the way it was said. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. That it's Denbighshire County Council submit the bid, and I say, but we do that with the endorsement which we have of the MP. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Graham, for that. Mark, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. And obviously I've read the documents and especially the letter off David Jones, the MP, and you know, yourself as leader, Graham as chief exec, and officers should give yourselves a pat on the back. It's a fantastic endorsement, and the process for Clwyd South, Clwyd West, and the Vale of Clwyd's been the same. And it's not often I agree with David Jones, but I will today on his description. Tremendous work. So it is, but I am disappointed that the Vale's not here today before us with their projects. So bearing in mind that the work and the team's been the same on all the bids, can I just have an update on the Vale? So I'm going to support this, and I'm very happy, and I think it's excellent response off the MP, but I am disappointed. So I'd just like an update, because I know the process has been tremendous, why the Vale's not here today. So an update, please. But well done, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, the Vale's not quite relevant to this report, but it's right to ask the question. There are still ongoing discussions with the MP, where we haven't addressed some of the challenges that he's provided for us in terms of allocating all projects into the Vale of Clwyd bid. So we are ongoing discussions on that one. I still hope and expect that the Vale of Clwyd bid will be coming to Cabinet in December. So it's on track, probably missed a month, as we know, but the intention is still to bring it in within the time scale.
Okay, thanks for that. I was asked the question, so I hope you don't mind me raising it now. But for joking about, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Graham, did you want to come back on that? Graham, I just saw your hand up. I was wondering if you wanted to come back on that. No, you're on mute, Graham.
Sorry, yeah. Legacy hand removed. Thank you.
I feel bad by not asking you earlier on in the meeting, Graham, so I'm trying to make it up to you.
No, it's okay, Leader. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Hill, please.
Diolch, Leader.
Thank you, Leader.
I just want to say, I mean, Bobby's covered most of it, in all fairness to her. I think this is a massive opportunity for Denbighshire. We have to capitalise on this. I think the way I look at it is that with these plans ahead of us, it touches everyone, from children to adults, right across our communities, and not just about tourism. So I think there's clear benefits here for people who live in the area, which is really important. That we have improved facilities for them. In some of the details, that the local park in Rhythm has still got the same rocking horse that I had when I was 30 years of age on it. So it's been there a long time. So there's some really positives here. I also, some of these plans are really excited because if approved, we would no longer be patching things up as we go along. It'll have a significant difference to the economy and to people's lives. So I'm fully supportive. Gareth, Emlyn, your team has worked really well. You've had a few challenges off us along the way because I've questioned a few of the projects, as you know, and you've risen to that challenge, and well done. And I know the work gone in is immense. So I'd just like to thank everyone and just urge everyone to get behind this now. And then hopefully next month we can bring the Vale in and we can get them on board as well. And then we've got 2 projects signed off and ready to go, and hopefully get the nod. So diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Okay, Brian.
Yeah, well, there's been comments about other bids. I think I'll ask a question. Where's the CLWYD South bid? They've won that one, haven't they? So how's that progressing?
I'm not sure what the state of play now is, but it was mentioned in the House of Commons that we've been successful. So I'd expect things to be moving on along that. I don't know, Gareth, if you got anything to add to that.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. We haven't received the formal offer yet from UK government. We received some documentation about a week ago, a huge spreadsheet requesting some information from us, an update as to where there's any changes to the project. So we've been completing that spreadsheet along with colleagues in Wrexham, and I think that has to be submitted to UK government by tomorrow. In the background, we are, of course, having conversation with the various project leads to begin to mobilise those projects, to begin to understand the additional resource requirement, the additional project management resource required to deliver those. So work starting in the background to begin to mobilise, and still waiting for the formal grant award from UK government. Thank you, Ida.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, if it just all gone dead, I hadn't heard anything. Obviously heard about we'd been successful, but nothing since. So that's good from Gareth. And last word from me on CLWYD West, and echoing what Councillor Hillage Robertson said and Councillor Bobby Feely. Those projects with the community emphasis on them will, if it's successful and they're implemented by March 2024, you will get an immediate difference in the community, an immediate difference. And for me, that's a big thing, that the community will see an immediate benefit once the projects have been delivered. March 24, lots of people will be benefiting. And I suppose that's one big thing about this Levelling Up Fund, when it's community angled. Thank you, Leader.
Good. Okay, thank you. Any other comments from Cabinet members? I can't see anything. No. Okay. Any other members want to comment on the report? Emrys, please.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr. Yeah,
Thank you. Can I also convey my support for what will hopefully be able to happen in Written itself? And if I can wear my hat as chair of the local members group for the Written area, I'm very pleased that other projects are included, those in Gwyddelwen, Greneclwys, Loggerheads and so on, Wel Famau, and in those communities, then that they will benefit as well. So hopefully we'll see the fruit of this labour, that we can link these communities with the town, and all the areas will benefit from the developments. Thank you, Emrys.
Any other one? No? Okay, I'll come to the recommendations. 3.1, that Cabinet support the theme of the bid, the proposed projects to be included in the bid and the broad indicative value of each project. 3.2, that Cabinet provides delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer and Head of Planning, Public Protection and Countryside Services in consultation with Section 151 Officer, Head of Legal, HR and Democratic Services and the Leader to refine the projects and project costs as required, and to agree for a bid to be submitted to Welsh Government from Denbighshire County Council in partnership with Conway Borough Council for the constituency of CLWYD West. And I move those recommendations.
I'll second, Leader.
Seconded. Everybody support that? Nobody against? Okay, thank you. And thank you for your support. And diolch i'r swyddogion hefyd. Okay, do you want a 10-minute break?
Thank you to the officers as well.
10-minute break. Thank you.
No, can't tell. Half of them don't put their videos on.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 8. Regional Memory Assessment Support Service invitation to tender. Bobby, please.
Yeah. So although a substantial pot of money has been provided by Welsh Government to prioritise support for people living with dementia in the North Wales region. This report before you today focuses on the process for achieving this aim, and hopefully for you to agree, Denbighshire County Council may act as the lead commissioner. The North Wales Regional Partnership Board, through the Regional Collaboration Team, has secured additional and recurring funding to the value of round about 672,000 per annum from the Welsh Government for the purpose of developing an enhanced regional approach to supporting individuals who have memory issues, concerns or dementia at the pre-assessment and post-diagnosis stages. The North Wales Regional Integrated Memory Assessment Pathway will deliver a regional service that is easy to access, efficient, effective and equitable for the population with dementia and their carers. There are 3 parts to the pathway. One is the pre-assessment education and support services at the beginning of the memory assessment pathway, delivered through the regional third sector commission services. Part 2 is the clinical assessment delivered by the Health Board, primary care, mental health, older people's services, audiology and other associated clinical teams. And part 3 is the post-diagnostic support services at the end of the pathway, delivered through the regional third sector commission services. Partner commissioning managers and service managers met to develop the regional memory assessment service pathway and agreed to commission parts 1 and 3 on a regional basis. As Denbighshire County Council are the host authority for the Regional Collaboration Service, Cabinet approval is requested for Denbighshire County Council to act as the lead commissioner on behalf of the Regional Collaboration Team, which is 6 local authorities, Betsy Cadwallader University Health Board and partners in North Wales, on an invitation to tender with a potential contract value of 3.36 million over a potential 5-year period for the Regional Memory Support Assessment Service. So I know it sounds quite involved, but basically the focus here is on Denbighshire, you in Cabinet accepting Denbighshire to act as the lead commissioner.
Okay, thank you, Bobby, for that.
I think Katrin, are you here, just in case anybody's got any questions?
I can see Catherine.
I am, yes.
Oh, you are. There we are.
Catherine, do you want to add anything to what Bobby said there?
I think most of it's been covered, really. I suppose just to reiterate that all the partners are keen to do a joint commissioning exercise on this particular element of the pre and post diagnostic support. There'll be no additional cost or support expected from Denbighshire County Council. All of that will be given from the regional collaboration team. It is, as Bobby said, it is the fact that Denbighshire being the host for the regional collaboration service, that's why we're asking you if you could undertake the procurement or support this procurement process on this particular commissioning service for us.
Okay, yeah, Catherine. Okay, any comments from Cabinet members or questions? Seems really clear, doesn't it? Could I just ask one, please, on the risks, the assurance on 10.2 of the risks? Steve, probably, or Catherine, is that an internal document where the risk of legal challenge is agreed by all stakeholders? Is that something that happens as part of the contract or as part of something, an agreement between the legal teams, or I'm just asking a question?
I think that's sorry, I think that's a legal document from the Regional Collaboration Board that covers the each of the partners.
Yeah, effectively, whoever takes the lead is indemnified by each of the partners in respect to the risk of legal challenge.
Right, okay, that's clear. Thank you for that. So nothing from Cabinet members. Other members with any questions, please? I don't think I can see anything. No, that's clear. Okay, thank you, Bobby. Can you come to the recommendation?
I'll just turn off my video again, just in case. So the recommendations are that Denbighshire County Council act as the lead commissioner for the Regional Memory Support Assessment Service, that the ITT exercise is led by the Denbighshire County Council procurement team in order to ensure due process is followed, which is appropriate to the level of the potential contract value, that the committee confirms that it has read, understood and taken into account of the wellbeing impact assessment, agenda item appendix 1, as part of its consideration. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Bobby. That's been moved. Someone second that? Julian second it. Is everybody in agreement? Nobody against?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Katrin, for putting it together.
That's been moved. Dear Katrin, please quality it up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Agenda
Thank you,
item
Katrin. Lovely to see you again.
vehicles for the new waste model. Brian, please.
Hello, yeah, I'm still here. I might leave my camera on this time, see if it'll work. Yeah.
Yeah, give it a go, Brian. Yeah. Okay, Brian.
You've immediately frozen, Brian.
That went well.
Hello. How's that now? Coming through loud and clear. Testing, veil of fluid.
Yes. We can
Veil
hear
of fluid, levelling up fun. Testing. Can you hear me?
we can hear you, Brian.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah, good. Right, here we go then. So next one up then, item 9, the tender for the new fleet vehicles for the new waste model. Should be straightforward, this, but I suppose the whole new waste model project has developed into a pretty complex project as time has elapsed. We've actually had 43 board meetings around the project, and they haven't just been lip service meetings for meeting's sake. It's all been deep agendas and all high level stuff. But we're here this morning on the fleet side of the project, and we need to push out a tender as soon as we can to procure the vehicles that will support the new waste model. So the report that is in front of you details quite a bit of information. There is some obviously ongoing work that I've already alluded to, such things as the number of vehicles that we'll actually need. That needs to be finalised because the routing of the work has still got to be firmed up. And then we've got other items like how many electric vehicles do we actually need? We need to firm up on that. The cost of electric vehicles is roughly 50% more than a diesel vehicle. We're in discussions with Welsh Government over the funding of the electric vehicles, but we need to see which way that all settles down and what funding we do get. So it's a complex project. There's an appendix 3 in the pack, which is the procurement timescale, which illustrates how tight it all is and why we need to move. We've actually got, going off on a slight tangent, a community scrutiny meeting on the 9th of December for the new waste model. I'd encourage all members to come to that on the 9th of December, Thursday the 9th of December, scrutiny committee on the new waste model. What I'm going to do now, further to this report being published, there has been a financial pressure that has come to light around the cost of the vehicles, which is referred to in the pack. And I'm sure most of us know what's been happening, not only with the cost of wood, metal, all of the commodities, but the price of the vehicles, whether it's personal vehicles, and certainly in automotive vehicles, the prices and the delivery time scales, they've all been affected by what's been happening globally. So I want to invite Tony Ward to enlighten you on this latest bit of information that's just recently come to hand, as I say before, after the report was published on an additional financial pressure. Over to you, Mr. Ward.
Okay, Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everybody. I'm having a message to say my internet connection is unstable, so I think I'll stop my video while I'm talking, if that's okay. Okay, yeah, today we're simply asking for permission to start the procurement process for the fleets required for the new waste model. As Brian has alluded to, since the Cabinet report was submitted, the fleet manager, Chris Brown, who's with us today, has been able to update the latest indicative costs for the proposed vehicles that we wish to procure. Unfortunately, due to the tight timescales to submit the report to Cabinet, we weren't able to provide this update in time for it to be included in the report. And it was really important that we were able to submit the report in time for this meeting to enable the tender to be progressed in December. As Brian said, the manufacture and delivery times of vehicles have increased significantly recently, and we need to get this tender out ASAP to ensure that we have the new fleet in time to roll out the new waste model in the summer of 2023. So I will therefore provide that update verbally now. The updated cost estimates suggest a pressure on the fleet budget of around about £770,000. So that means that we have a budget for fleet in the project, which is about £2.554 million. And the indicative costs currently suggest that that fleet might cost up to £3.325 million. However, it's very true that we won't actually know the costs of the fleet until we have the tender returns back in January. The pressure is due to around about a 25% increase in the market price of vehicles for reasons that are beyond our control. The pressure on fleet costs will be met from the risk and contingency sum within the overall waste project budget, which currently stands at £2 million. We will face other calls on that contingency sum. For example, when we go to tender for phase 2 of the depot construction, we expect a pressure there due to the increasing cost of materials. We should have a tender cost return for that element by spring 22, and we will update Cabinet on the position then. We have had initial discussions with Welsh Government about the possibility of accessing additional Welsh Government funding to meet some of these cost pressures, and these discussions are currently ongoing. So the key point here is that we have a £2 million risk and contingency pot to address cost pressures across the whole waste project. We currently believe we have a pressure around about £770,000 on the fleet element, which will be confirmed when we get the tenders back. And this pressure will be met by that £2 million risk and contingency sum. However, we know that there will be further pressures when we go to phase 2 of the depot build, and we will look to address those pressures with the balance of that contingency sum. However, we felt it was important to highlight this today, and also to highlight that the level of cost pressure is currently uncertain because we haven't been to tender yet. Once the cost pressures have been firmed up, we will of course update on the position. And in the meantime, as I said, we're exploring options with Welsh Government to access additional funding to address these pressures. So we feel we have the mechanisms to deal with these pressures at the moment. And today we are, as I said earlier, simply asking for permission to start the procurement process so that we are able to procure our fleet in time for the service change. I hope that was clear. I'm obviously here to answer any further questions in relation to that or anything else in the report. And I also have with me Chris Brown, Fleet Manager, and also Joanne Taylor, who's the Project Manager for the mobilisation element of the waste project. So between us, we should be able to answer any questions you've got today. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Tony. Brian, do you want to come back?
Just a small, well, not a small item. If I just apologise to Chris Brown and Joanne Taylor, couldn't see them on the screen when I started talking, so apologies for that, and a belated welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Julian, on this finance element.
Yeah, but first of all, I totally support the recommendations in the report. We need to get out and do it, if for no other reason than we don't want the cost to increase even more. In terms of the projected, it is only at this stage, I realise, a projection in terms of the estimated cost being quite considerably in excess of what was in the original plan. Clearly, from what Tony has said, there's no issue with this particular contract as such because of the availability of the risk pot that's already in place for the overall project. I suppose and this is the one that you can't answer, Tony, because we still got so much that's out to tender and will be going out to tender. Clearly, that would only leave around about 1.2 million. If we have to use the whole amount of that, we'd only have about 1.2 million left in the risk pot. So there is a likelihood at some stage between now and when we roll everything out, that there will be a shortfall that will need funding. Is that what I'm potentially reading to that? In which case, it's probably a question for Steve as to how we would accommodate that.
It's certainly possible, Julian, that when we get all the tenders back, that there may be a pressure there. Obviously, as you said, we don't know yet. If we do have to use the whole, if we do have that pressure of 770,000 on the fleet and we have to take that out of the contingency pot, you're right, it does still leave us with more than £1.2 million in the contingency pot, which is actually quite a lot. So we're not uncomfortable with the position we're in as a project as a whole at the moment. But there is a possibility that that £2 million isn't enough. We just don't know yet. As I said, we are in conversation with Welsh Government about about the possibility of accessing additional funding to cover that eventuality. So we are hopeful that even if we get to that point when 2 million isn't enough, that we do have a way of managing it. But it is, as you rightly said, it's impossible to say with any certainty at the moment, I'm afraid.
So just for clarity, Tony, it's important that we are able to support these recommendations to get those costings back, whilst appreciating there's already a pressure emerging, but the contingency does cover that. But there'll be more detail for us back in January.
There will, Leader, yes. And it's obviously not what we're not doing today is committing to anything. We're just going out to tender. And that's what we're asking for permission to do, so we can understand the costs with more certainty. So yeah, there'll be more detail when we come back.
Okay,
we'll be asking Cabinet to give us permission to award a contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if I just come back, Leader, I suppose the issue with that, as I say, is not for that particular contract award, because there will still be sufficient headroom within the overall funding envelope for the programme to allow that contract to be awarded if it is in the region that you think is going to be. It's what might that knock on to a bit later. I think that's the issue. So I don't think there'll be a problem with awarding this contract if it's in that sort of region. But okay. Steve might well want to add something.
I'm going to call Steve Gard in now, really. Steve?
Thanks, Chair. Leader, yeah, just to be clear, the project informed me of this last week, so it was almost as soon as the figures were coming back from Chris. We've been involved in all the discussions, and I think Julian's right that this element of the project is still fine, because even if it comes in at the 770 overspend, there is still contingency enough in the project. I think we just felt that this was obviously the first opportunity to raise the risk that it is likely, as other projects we're seeing it in other capital projects, that costs are increasing, and therefore there may be a pressure going forward that actually exceeds the 2 million. As Tony said, there's lots of sort of work ongoing over the last couple of weeks and ongoing for the next couple of weeks to try and find both external solutions, which would obviously be the preferable one, so external funding from Welsh Government, but also internal ones around options around potential borrowing, perhaps for the fleet element. From the overall revenue element of the project. So work's ongoing to look at the detail on that between finance and the project. So the various options still available to us. And it really is just, I think we just felt it would have been remiss of us not to just raise this as a risk at this stage, but actually for this particular contract, there is funding even at the 770 to cover it, but obviously there'd be no point doing it without the whole project being put into place. So that's why we felt it should just be raised at this meeting.
Yeah, good. No, that's good. And that's very clear. So all cabinet members are familiar with that. Yeah. Okay, Brian, did you want to come back?
Yeah, just a quick one. Yeah, with that sounding foolhardy, if you look close enough now across the board, you will see that prices are starting to pare back a little bit. It's not good enough for it to hit the media or anything like that, but prices across a number of sectors are starting to drop back a little bit. And history tells you that will happen. I know we're in unprecedented times, but costs go up and costs come down. So that could be a little thread of comfort. And then when I mentioned 43 board meetings, as you'd expect, every board meeting has a segment attributed to the finance of the project. It's always taken seriously. We're always reviewing it. And I can sort of assure everyone concerned that we're all aware of it, the key people in the team. And we've got that safety valve figure of 500k, if anyone can remember that far back, which was put in that if the return on the project dipped to that figure, we would report back to Cabinet. So that still holds true, that. So I suppose what I'm saying, we have it in control. Obviously, we can't control the costs if they run away exceedingly, but I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable the way it is going. Thank you, Lee.
Okay, thank you for that. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just thank to Joanne and Chris. Good report, easy to read, so thanks for that. Much appreciated. Just want to touch on the risks. So it talks about the electric cost, and if Welsh Government doesn't fund the gap between diesel and electric, we'd have to agree a fallback position. So obviously we're keen to have electric if we can, but I understand the debate. And it talks about maybe going all diesel, but I'd like that chat before we make that decision. So it's just a commitment to engage if we have to look at that, because obviously the more we invest in electric, the cheaper it gets, as just been mentioned. So just that commitment that that conversation will happen if needed with us. Thank you.
Just on that, Mark, yes, that it would be a last resort, I think, for us to consider not going electric if electric is a viable option for the fleet. We are committed to that. As a fleet service generally across the council, we have that electric first policy in place. So we will be doing everything we can to make sure that we introduce as much electric as we can within this new fleet.
And if you just come back on that, I'm guessing in January you'll be able to update us further on that. Yeah,
absolutely committed to that, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other cabinet members? No. Right. Members, any questions or comments on this report? It seems very clear that we need to go along with this, with the timelines we've got, and then work out the affordability of the whole project following the tendering process. Does that make sense, everyone? Yeah. Chris or Joanne, did you want to, have we missed anything in the conversation which you'd like to highlight with us? Chris first.
No, Chair. I mean, if there are any specific questions for me, then I'm happy to take any, but generally it's been covered, I think.
Thanks, Chris. Joanne?
I just wanted to double check that we are happy to implement immediately. That's one of the clauses in the report rather than waiting for a calling period.
Okay, thank you, John. I think I got most of that. Gary, could you just respond to that, please?
Yes, just to clarify for members that recommendation 3.3 is in there because ordinarily any decision made by Cabinet is subject to call-in and can't be implemented until the time period within which a call-in could be brought has expired. The Constitution does, a paragraph of section, rather these days 7.25, allow for decisions to be implemented immediately and dispensing with call-in where there's an urgent need to implement, and provided that there's a reason put in the report and the record of decision to record that, then that's perfectly okay in terms of the Constitution. So that's why that paragraph has been inserted at 3.3.
Okay, that's clear, Joanne, from Gary there. Okay, no more comments on this?
Oh.
Right, Brian, can you take us through recommendation, please?
Yeah, can do, Leader. Just a quick apology for once again mentioning the community scrutiny meeting on the 9th of December, Thursday. New waste model. It'd be great to see as many members there as possible to see where we've been coming down the tracks with it. I'm sure you'll find it very interesting. So the recommendations then, 3.1, that Cabinet grant approval to undertake the proposed tendering exercise. 3.2, that the committee confirms it is read, understood and taken account of the wellbeing and impact assessment at Appendix 1 and the fleet commissioning form at Appendix 2 and the timeline Appendix 3 as part of its consideration. 3.3, that the decision is implemented immediately in view of the need for the invitation to tender to commence early December 2021 to ensure the goods are received in time for launch of the new service model. This is due to the current long lead times of vehicles. And finally, 3.4, a further report will be brought back to Cabinet in January 2022 for the approval of the subsequent contract award following the tendering exercise, which will also confirm contract management arrangements, tender costs and contract details. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you, Barry. That's clear. That's been proposed. Is there a seconder? Mark seconded that. Is everybody in agreement with the recommendation? Yeah, thanks. Nobody against. Okay, that's been moved. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Agenda item 10, corporate plan update, quarter 2, 2021 to 2022. Julian, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Leader. I'll just do a very brief introduction, and I can see Yolo's here. So I'll ask Yolo a bit later to take you through some of the detail of the report. This is the quarter 2 update for 21-22 on the corporate plan. As I'm sure you're all aware, we're now nearing the end of the period for this particular corporate plan. So hopefully you'll all by now be familiar with the format that the report's in. In general, I think it's safe to say that we have delivered or will deliver, subject to some projects have been unavoidably delayed due to COVID, but they will deliver a little bit later than intended. The vast majority of the schemes that we planned upon. It has been an ambitious corporate plan, so it's no shame or anything on us that we've not been necessarily 100% in terms of delivery of all of the schemes. In fact, it's probably been quite good that during the course of the programme we have removed a very few of them because they didn't necessarily stack up as we'd originally intended. In terms of where we are on the overall programme, obviously, as I say, we're coming close to the end of the scheduled end of the plan. So as you would expect, we're going through a process of work in terms of determining the lessons learned and looking forward to the development of the next iteration of the corporate plan for the new council. As you'll see from the overall summary to the report, in terms of the measures, the 2 areas still remain as priorities for improvement. They're the ones that have been highlighted in reports for some time now, in terms of connected communities and young people. But if you look on the overall summary of the projects, they're all at a good or above level. The corporate plan board continues to monitor the delivery and is now monitoring the lessons learned and the getting towards the winding up of this corporate plan and starting up for the new one. So as an introduction, I think that's probably all I needed to say. I'll hand over to Yolo now to highlight some of the points on the actual detail of the report, please.
Thank you, Julian. So thank you for that. It's as always, you take my best lines when you introduce papers that I write. So you've covered most of what I was intending to say. I would just add, I think, the priority for improvement areas that are highlighted in the report that have been priority for improvement areas for a long time. I think it's fair to say that those are reflecting areas that are only within our influence, perhaps not entirely within our control. And that's where the projects are helpful, because the projects are more in our control and thankfully showing better performance. Anticipating that the leader might ask me what are the weak areas, as he did last time, I was having a bit of a reflection this morning and just doing a skim of the report, really. And I think there's a few areas that still stand out, which are not a surprise. The SARF figures are still high. I know in the report we've said that we're anticipating the outcome of an investigative report into that to understand better. But that report won't come until the end of the year. So we will report on that in the next paper. Under the connected priority, I would say the only project area that's of concern is the travel project. I think the board has recognised there that progress has been slow with that project. And I would say, you know, it's probably due to the need for a project management role there. The environment and resilient priorities broadly seem healthy to me. I don't have any concerns in those areas. There's a lot of good work going on. And then under the young people priority, I think we've got new healthy weight data for children in our primary schools. It has improved, but it really is still a concern. It ranks us currently now at 13th. So we are below the median. And it puts a bit of pressure, I think, on our school nutrition project, which has been a great pilot, but it will be coming to an end in terms of its funding. So there are some considerations there as to what extent, again, we can influence or control the statistics around the weight of our young people. And then the final part of the report, the corporate health outcome, I would say this is now our third iteration producing a report in this style, and geared on by the requirements of the Local Government and Elections Wales Act and what we need to be writing about and looking at when we're self-assessing ourselves. I think the reports have been enhanced. We are now practiced at looking at what's going to all our committees. We're looking at all our news items, and we're trying to draw all those stories into this report. It is, again, a lengthy report, but there's a lot to talk about. We're a busy council. Broadly looking at the corporate health outcome, I actually have few concerns at the moment. The 7 governance areas seem healthy. I would just highlight that perhaps sickness absence is creeping up, but that's perhaps no surprise given the 2-year hell that we've all been through, and you know, it's flu season. So that might contribute towards that increasing. That's all from me, so I'm happy to open it up to discussions from members.
Thank you for that, and it's always concerning when an officer has anticipated a question before you've asked it. So I'll think of another question you'll this time. But just going back to Julian's point, yes, it was ambitious, and what was challenging about this, that some of the priorities weren't entirely in our hands, and that's what made it really even more difficult. But what's good about the corporate plan for me is that some of the priorities which we highlighted at the beginning of this council are still really relevant today. So probably the hope is that the services will take on board some of the priorities from this corporate plan and embed them in the way that they think and plan for the next few years. So it's not the end of the matter when this corporate plan comes to an end, that some of these will continue. And one of the priorities which did prove quite challenging was the digital one, where it was quite clearly not in our hands, but we went there with good intentions and we made small little, we've moved forward with some things, but not to the level that we'd hoped. But it's good that we're able to explain why that priority didn't move forward at the pace we would have liked it to do as well. Okay, I'll open up for questions from members. Are there any questions? No, it all seems covered from cabinet. Okay, fine. Other members, any questions or comments? I can't see anything. Okay, that's good. Back to you, Julian. Thank you, Ola. Back to you, Julian.
Okay, thank you, Leader. So the recommendations are 3.1. It's recommended the Cabinet consider the report and agree any further actions required to respond to any performance-related issues highlighted within the report. Obviously, you haven't done that, thankfully. 3.2, subject to any agreed changes, Cabinet confirm the content of the draft report.
Okay, that's been moved by Julian. Someone second that? Mark seconded it. Everybody supporting? Nobody against? Okay, that's been moved. Thank you, Julian. Thank you all for that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to agenda item 11, finance report.
Okay, thank you very much again, Leader. My usual finance report to the end of October. A few points to highlight. You'll see that the projected overspend has increased somewhat from about 656,000 reported last month to just under 1.2 million pounds in this report. And I'll come to the reason for the variances in a moment. In terms of our corporate budgets, we're still projecting a break even, although some of the usual suspects are still present in terms of uncertainties, in terms of levels of council tax receipts, take-up of council tax reduction scheme, and the pay settlements. Been some slight positive movement on that in respect that there's been the announcement on the teachers' pay element, which can be accommodated within what we'd already made allowance for. However, the non-teachers' pay settlement remains outstanding, and there's still I think it'd be fair to say, a pretty wide disparity between the respective sides, between the employers and the unions. In terms of our schools balances, the credit balance is projected to be around about £3.8 million, which is, as previously reported, a reduction on what we began the financial year with. However, that was always the intention to reduce that and to draw down on that because of the receipts of one-off Welsh Government grant at the end of the last financial year, which I suppose artificially increased that credit balance figure, and we're now seeing that being drawn down. Appendix 2 to the report gives you some breakdown and context on the variances from previous reports, and the two areas which primarily have made up that increase in the projected overspend figure I reported at the beginning. There's been within highways and environments, the figure has increased by around just over £100,000, largely due to increases in external consultants required to get us back up to where we were after the delays of last year. And common theme, we've been talking about it in other reports today, and will no doubt continue to increases in material costs. But the most significant increase is in planning and public protection, where we're projecting a £464,000 overspend, whereas it was break even last month. And this is almost entirely down to the fact that the new intake for school transport, which came in September, has now been modelled through in terms of the costings for that. And that figure is the projected overspend as a result of the school transport. In terms of the major capital projects in the appendix, again, though they're all generally okay, there's no significant issues that need to be flagged up. Obviously, we just had the issue on the waste project with regards to the fleet costs, but as we did on the last paper say, that is still within the overall funding envelope at that level. There's one other recommendation coming to you. There was a strategic investment group last year approved in principle the purchase of Llys Anwyl in Rhyl. A new business case was subsequently needed to be developed for that in order to provide 12 apartments for social rent, which would be entirely funded from the housing revenue account. And due to the necessary timescales on that, as you'll see in the report, it hasn't actually gone to a strategic investment group meeting. As we do in these circumstances, the members of the group were circulated by email with the amended documentation and asked to make any comments, and all of those who responded positively to continue with that. The actual full amended business case is in Appendix 5 and the WA in Appendix 6 to your report. So I think that's probably all I picked up that I needed to highlight. Chair Steve, is there anything you wanted to add?
I'm scrabbling around a bit now to find anything to add, Julian. But the only thing I'd add about the school transport is obviously the contracts get less in September with the new once pupil numbers, etc., and what pupils are going where. Now, what's happened this time is that actually there's a number of emergency contracts still in place, and they are obviously those short-term contracts are obviously reflecting the increase in fuel prices and the pressure on driver shortages. So that's it is a particular pinch point now. We are going through the budget process, as I'm sure you're aware, so we will be making an assessment of actually whether to put in a pressure and how much to put in, because some of this, as I think Brian mentioned in the previous item, these costs are probably the highest at the moment and are likely to fall back a little bit. But I think if we could, and depending on the settlement, it would be prudent to put a pressure in for school transport at this stage. But that will come through in future reports.
Okay, thanks for that, Steve. While you're on, Steve, just one question from me on the paragraph 9 of the report. And we have to appreciate the Welsh Government have been very supportive during COVID, and without that additional support, we'd be in pretty dire straits. But then you do refer to the fact that some of the criteria for that support is tightening up. Do we know at this point what are the implications of that tightening the criteria is on some services? Is it more services which are more pronounced than others?
Yes, they are tightening the criteria, so we're working that through. It's never black and white on this hardship fund, because they go from month to month, and that it's very difficult. But what happens is that the claims go to Welsh Government and then they get divvied up to all the different departments and they make their own decisions. But they, there is a noticeable tightening up of what we can claim for. Until we put claim in, we're 100% sure how they'll view different items. So we're probably not quite there on that.
Sorry to cross. Could you just put your screen off, please?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was chancing my arm there, wasn't I? Yeah, sorry, I don't know what you missed, but I was just saying, when you put in the hardship fund claim, they go to Welsh Government and then it gets divvied up to all the different departments and they make the decisions on their elements. So the schools bit go to the education department, etc. So we are seeing a tightening of these claims, but we probably haven't seen the full picture until we start getting the results of whether the claims have been accepted or not. So we can probably do some work on that for next month and just let you know where we see any issues or problems. I mean, to some extent, it is a sort of weaning off of the fund. It's not going to continue forever. I think there's some acceptance in local authorities that is okay, and there's nothing that they're withdrawing that you would say that you would argue against. Really, in principle, a lot of it seems fair enough, to be honest, at this stage in the pandemic. Yeah, it is one of the things. It is drying up.
Yeah. Okay. Point noted on that one. That's it from me. Are there any questions from cabinet members?
Sorry, Chair, can I just say Mark Dixon is at the meeting just for any queries on the Llys Anwyl.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments from cabinet members?
Hi, Leader.
Yes,
Just one small one on the let me see, which was it on? Hang on. On the real market development. It says phase 1 is over budget. But it doesn't say how much over budget. I just wondered if anybody has that to hand. Is it a significant amount or a small amount, or on the Queen's Market?
Yeah. Julian, do you want me to? Or?
Yes, if I haven't got the figure to hand, so if you got it to hand, that's fine.
Well, it's a work in progress. That's why we didn't quote the figure, because, as it said, Tom and the team are working really closely with the contractor to give us options, really. So it's likely that we'll come back to the first of all to the Queen's Market Board, and we probably can get that cost down to within budget, but it might be a choice that we want to come back to cabinet with, where actually, do you want to value engineer that contract down, or do you actually want to put a bit more money in, so we do technically overspend, but we're actually putting a bit more money in to get a better product at the end? So that's where we're up to. So it's all sorts of things, like, for example, whether we put the pipes on the inside or the outside of the building. We're down to that sort of granular level of detail to see whether we can get that price down. I think at the moment it was, the first quote was about 1.4 million over. We're a lot lower than that at this stage. But there are options, I guess.
So they've come in with, so are you saying they came in with one plan, which was over budget, and now they've come in with another one?
No, we're currently still talking to them.
Or is this phase 1?
It's an iterative process at the moment, so they haven't come back with a final, this is the revised plan. We're currently discussing the detail with them and discussing options of what to include in that final plan. And there might be that there's options on that final plan. So you have option A at one price that, I'm not second guessing anything, that's why we didn't want to put any figures in the report. But one option might be that it comes in under, within the current envelope. Another option might be that it exceeds that, and these are the options for how to fund that overspend. So we just want to be
okay. I wasn't expecting exact figures. I just wondered whether it was like £50 or £50,000, or, as you have said, 1.4 million. So quite a lot.
Yes.
I think it'd also be fair to say that this has been a really complex project in terms of in particular, just in terms of asbestos removal.
Yes.
That has been an extremely movable feast, and even right at the death, if I can use that phrase, considering I'm talking about asbestos. When we thought everything had been bottomed out, suddenly literally found another hidden boiler room under the floor, which was on no plan, nobody knew about, and which had asbestos on it, which obviously had to be dealt with.
I appreciate the asbestos situation, Julian.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Since Mark is here, do you want to just give us a quick overview of this annual, Mark, for members who are not familiar with it?
Yes, thank you, leader. So you'll probably be aware of it. It's the old tax office opposite Russell House in Churton Road in Rill. So the valuation office vacated the premises some time ago. It was on the market for a while. We did look at it, but we're told somebody else had bought it. Then apparently the sale fell through. So we made an offer to purchase the property, subject to us getting a planning permission for a residential conversion. That came through at the beginning of this calendar year, and then we completed the sale. So since then, our colleagues in the design team have been looking at what will be required for the conversion. And we're quite an advanced stage with that, in that we've now got tender prices in. So subject to the outcome of this meeting today, because of the value of the contract, we'll be putting a delegated decision report forward to Councillor Thompson Hill for approval to award a contract and then start on site in the new year. The intention is that the apartments will be fully accessible for older persons, and they'll be for social rent.
Okay, that's clear. Thanks, Mark. That's helpful. Okay, Brian, were you there? Did you raise your hand, Brian?
Yeah, I put it down. I heard Mark Dixon's voice and I dropped my hand. I was all calmed.
All calm. That's good to know, Brian. Right. No more questions from cabinet members? No. Questions from other members? No. Okay. Julian, can you come to the recommendations, please?
Yes, of course. Recommendation 3.1, that members note the budget set for 21-22 and progress against the agreed strategy. And 3.2, the members approve the conversion of Llys Anwyl in Rill into apartments for social rent as detailed in this report, section 6.7, and then appendices 5 and 6.
Thank you, Julian. That's been moved. Someone second that? Is there a seconder? Yeah, Mark. Everybody in agreement?
Happy to second. Sorry, I didn't have my thingy.
It's okay, Bobby. It's moved on. Is there anyone against those recommendations? No. Okay, that's been moved. Thank you. And agenda item 12, the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. Gary, please.
Yes, members will see the Cabinet Forward Work Programme quite busy for December. There are, since the publication of these papers, 2 additional items for the work programme in December. That's a report on the Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment and a report on the establishment of the North Wales Region's Corporate Joint Committee. So they're both due to come in December.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Anyone wish to add to any of that? No. Okay, that's good. Thanks, Gary, for that. And that's the end of Cabinet for today. Can I thank you all for your participation and involvement in the agendas, and see you next time. Diolch yn fawr i chi gyd. Hwyl.